Happy Ihahauna, or should I say, Happy Halloween. My name is Esmeralda the Good Witch, and I am here to tell you a spooky Irish story. My story is called The Horned Women, and it is by Lady Jane Wilde. A rich woman sat up late carding wool while her children and servants slept. A knock came at the door, and a voice said, "Open! Open!" "Who's there?" said the woman of the house. "I am the witch of the one horn," came the answer. Against her better judgment, the mistress felt compelled to get up and open the door. A woman entered. What a strange woman she was, for a horn grew out from her forehead. She sat down in silence by the fire and began to card thread with violent haste. Eventually, she said, "Where are the others? They are taking too long." Then there came a second knock on the door. "Open, said a voice. A second woman entered, this time with two horns growing from her head. In her hand she carried a spinning wheel, and she sat down by the fire and began to spin wool. At length there was a third knock on the door, and the third woman entered, this one with 3 horns coming from her forehead. And so it continued until there were 12 women in all sitting round the fire. The first with 1 horn and the last with 12. Together they sang an ancient rhyme. She sat beside the haunted stream, her long hair with the wild winds flew, and her blood was a robe of snowy hue. And he gazed with its sad glancing eyes, where Macura's towers rose proud and And so it continued, their carding, their spinning, their uninvited singing. The woman tried to go and ask for help, but she could not, because the women had cast a spell on her. Then one of them called out to her in Irish, "Oirig I do hiasaf avan, agus berig kishta." "Rise, woman, and make a cake." And the lady looked around for a pot to bring water from the well so that she could mix it with the flour. But in her stupor, she could not find one. "Take a sieve," said one of the women. And the woman looked around and saw a sieve hanging from her cupboard. She then went outside to the well. But of course, she was unable to fill it because the water kept on running through the holes. At last, she sat down by the well, exhausted by her efforts, and she wept. Too much? It was at this moment, close to despair, that she heard a gentle voice say, "Listen to me, for I am the spirit of the well, and I shall keep you safe. Take some clay and moss from the ground. Use it to patch up the sieve. Then you may fill it up with water. Return to the house with the water as you pass through the door. Call out, "The mountain of Fenian women and the sky over it are full of fire." So the woman did as she was told. She went back to the house, went through the door, and said, "The mountain of Fenian women and the sky over it are all full of fire." Upon hearing those words, the 12 horned women rushed around the room, wailing and shrieking most accursedly, before finally departing via the windows and up the chimney. The woman went out to the well to thank the spirit for his kind advice, and she surely saved her and her family from a terrible fate. It is too soon to rejoice, for the women will return unless you follow my instructions exactly. And then the spirit told her that what she should do. She listened carefully and followed the instructions to the letter. Firstly, she sprinkled water with which she had washed her child's feet outside the door and scattered it along the path. Secondly, she took the cake which the witches had baked while she was at the well and put a crumb of it in each of the mouths of her sleeping children. Thirdly, she took the cloth which the witches had woven and placed it half in and half out of the chest. Finally, she barred the door with a great wooden crossbeam, lodging it in the jambs. When she had done these things, she sat down and waited. She didn't have long to wait, because soon the witches were filling the sky and wheeling around the house and screaming most fearfully. "Open, open, foot water!" they cried. "I can't," replied the foot water, "because I'm scattered all along the path." "Open cake that we have baked," called the witches. "I can't, for my crumbs are on the lips of the sleeping children," replied the cake. "Open cloth that we have woven," screeched the witches. "I can't," replied the cloth, "for I am trapped half in and half out of the chest." "Wooden beam, open the door," called the witches. "I can't. I'm lodged in the jamb across the door," replied the wooden beam. Then the witches rushed through the air with cries, uttering curses on the spirit who was trying to wish their ruin. And they fled off to their dwelling place, Slieve na which means in Irish, the mountain of the women. In the morning, the lady of the house found a cake dropped by one of those witches. Some 500 years later, that very same cake is still with her family as a memento of that terrible struggle that evening between the lady of the house and the 12 horned women. And that's the end of my story. So, dear friends, as we say in Ireland, Cala Sov. Sleep soundly, won't you?